Welcome to TheoTrade. This is Don Kaufman. It's August 10th, 2016. I start this evening on our Theo video report taking a look at the XLF. For those of you unfamiliar with the XLF, of course, it's the financials ETF, taking really a bit of a hit today, down about 0.8%. But more importantly, if we take a look at the trade tab here on thinkorswim, and I'll go ahead and close up the left side bar, it's displaying a degree of risk inside of the next 2 days. Now, what I'm actually displaying here could be a little bit of an economic or news announcement event that's coming out. And clearly financials are a sensitive instrument. Nevertheless, what we're seeing in 2 days is the 2-day volatility is now exceeding the 9-day volatility. Okay, so this is, what some people will call a contango, and then of course there is a backwardation. Well, in the shortest duration possible, we do have a little bit of a backwardation, which says risk is heavier in the next 2 days than it is over the next 9 days. In any regard, you're also seeing, again, the XLF take a bit of a hit, as we said earlier. In addition to that, I wanted to dig a little bit deeper than just, the XLF is taking a hit. This is not a lot of volatility in the market, but it's more volatility than we've seen inside of the last 3 weeks of trade. Need I remind everybody, where have we been? And I'll use the XLF in this particular case. Where have we been over the last 3 weeks? Absolutely nowhere. Nice rally up on the jobs number from Friday. But here we are stagnating, giving it a little bit back, though, today, again, is the XLF. And there are two sectors today that kind of stand out. One of those is financials. The other that's going to stand out a bit to you today is going to be energy. Those are your weakest sectors on the day. The reason the financials specifically stick out to me is again this just bit of backwardation. So I did a little homework and was surprised to actually find the option volume in there on the put side is slightly elevated. Now, neither here nor there. There's days you come in and hey, some light trading days. Other days you'll see the puts elevated. Other days you see the calls elevated. It's something, though, to consider, because the more that I dug into the puts being elevated, the more I was actually finding that was much further out in time. Again, if we take a look at volume and open interest inside of the XLF, there was nothing that really stood out. It was volume much further out in time that was being traded heavily inside of the XLF. In addition to that, looking at some of the financials themselves, Bank of America is getting hit by over 2.5%. JP Morgan's down 1%, Citi down 1%, Morgan Stanley. So if you're curious, well, why is the XLF only down 0.8%? It's because the XLF, its primary component, happens to be, well, you can consider it a financial, but it's Berkshire Hathaway. And we know this by looking, again, specifically at the financials. All you're looking at here, well, this is the financials. What's included in the financials? Wells, okay, JP Morgan, again, Wells taking a hit, Bank of America kind of red hot over here. But again, the largest in the XLF happens to be none other than Berkshire Hathaway, not doing half bad, in today's marketplace. So where do we go from here? Well, what we want to see is how this really materializes. So here we are on a Wednesday afternoon, and how this is going to materialize over the next 2 days. As I said, we're showing, all right, hey, either risk is going to rear its ugly head here in the next 2 days, or it's not. But it's one of the first signs, okay, of any degree of volatility that we've kind of seen come to life inside of the last 3 weeks. Sure, again, the last 3 weeks, it's been some extremely tight ranges. We had the threat of a sell-off for a short period of time last week, right? Followed by, of course, the jobs number and this spectacular rally over here. That's been the only signs of volatility. If we take a look specifically at the SPX, the 2-day options here, they're not displaying much of anything. we're looking at Thursday and Friday only having a $13 and change expected move. Again, what's going on in the financials? Don't know yet. But I will tell you one thing. You will see, okay, whatever risk happens to be, okay, there's the bell. Whatever risk is actually going to come to fruition, it'll happen inside of the next 2 days. I mean, the markets are sharp enough out there to know, okay, when risk is prevalent in the here and now versus when risk is there further out in time. I'll kind of continue to keep an eye on this. Again, right now, if you were considering, trades, allocations, be again very careful allocating. Those of you thinking of doing iron condors, if you're selling vertical spreads, got to be careful on the sell side. Keep, all right, some powder dry. We've been in an extremely tight range, and one of the things I just want to instill to anybody that's tuning in to TheoTrade on a day-to-day basis, this is not the time to allocate heavily. Doesn't matter whether you want to be long, whether you want to be short, okay? If you're selling options premium and you're using any type of spread to do so, you're using, again, irons or short spreads, it's okay, all right, to be grossly underallocated in a period of time where for the last, several weeks, we've only been inside of this maybe 2% range, because anything you do, again, continues to allocate capital. And I'll reiterate that kind of day in and day out, because I think the worst position you could be caught in is selling options when the volatility, okay, could be on the verge of exploding here. What I'm doing on a day-to-day basis right now, sure, trading a little bit on an intraday basis if that interests you, but on a day-to-day basis, doing a lot of evaluation of, okay, some of the volatility here, and we are seeing just little signs creeping up of volatility possibly emerging. Okay, we've actually had a little bit of action inside of the bond product over the last 2 days. Bonds have actually popped to the upside, but they're still in an incredibly tight range. If we crack to the 175 level inside of the ZB, things might get a little bit more entertaining, a little bit more interesting. I also want to reiterate the stance on bonds. If you're not familiar with the ZB, that's okay. That's a 30-year U.S. Treasury bond futures, but most people are more intimately familiar with the TLT. Again, you have a marketplace right now. When we talk about strange occurrences, okay, if you've listened to anybody, they're like, I don't even understand. The market's all-time high. It's totally flat. We're not moving. You want something strange? Look at the bond volatility. Just take a quick glance over at bond volatility, and it's 12-13%. Now bury that in your mind for a second. It's about 12%. Then go look at the S&P 500. Right, the SPX. Look at its volatility. Yeah, it's about 10%. Since when did bonds throw off more volatility than the SPX? Okay, it's a good question for all of you. It's a nice bit of homework over there. How can bonds be quote-unquote more risky in the future than is the S&P? And that's why I'm spending quite a bit of time evaluating the implied volatilities of these. It's why we spend the time here at TheoTrade, put in a little bit of homework, and you realize this could be one of the most opportunistic times in marketplaces, because we could be on the verge of volatility exploding. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but pick up on any sign of that when you have the S&P 500 at a lower volatility stance than the bond markets. You know that you're going to be in for something quite spectacular. And again, we're just looking for signs of whatever spectacular happens to be unfolding. In the meantime, again, keep your eyes peeled towards those financials, okay, on both Thursday and Friday of this trading week. I want to see if they're going to break apart and possibly spark more volatility to the broader marketplace. Again, it's the place that we're watching here over the next 48 hours in terms of trade. Thanks everybody for joining us here at TheoTrade. Again, my name is Don Kaufman. I'll be back on all throughout the course of this week in the TheoTrade chat room live, again, Monday through Friday. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.